In order to start talking about this game, I need to tell a little story about how it came into being. During the production of Sonic 06, where it was safe to say things were not going well in the least, Sega was given a dev kit for the then new Nintendo Wii. However, they immediately ran into a huge issue. The power of the Wii wasn't comparable at all to the Xbox 360 and PS3, so porting the game like planned would be out of the question. But the Wii was selling like mad, so they couldn't just leave things be. So Sega, in their infinite wisdom, broke the already struggling Sonic team in half and had them create an entirely new game instead. This gave us the short-lived Storybook Series with 2007's Sonic and the Secret Rings. General consensus does not view this game very well nowadays, but I distinctly remember it getting really positive coverage when it first came out, both in game magazines, which I used to love collecting as a kid, and just among people in general. Like, I can remember being at a relative's house as a kid and seeing this for the first time when their dad had bought this, and all of us, I remember, were hyped to play it. Of course, me being the absolute Sonic maniac I am, I got the game back in the day as well, and I remember my feelings quickly growing sour towards it. I think the furthest I got was a pirate ship level before giving up, and it takes a lot for me to drop a Sonic game, especially when I was younger. Hell, I've even finished Black Knight, '06, and Free Riders when they were new, but not this one, and I've never touched it since. Well, after all these years, I'm going to dive right back in, finish this game properly, and give it a fresh, fair, honest chance and see how it holds up today. The game begins with Sonic literally being sucked into the world of the Arabian Nights, and this intro seems to make a lot of Sonic fans online go crazy with the question of where Sonic lives, but I've always just assumed he was just crashing at Tails' workshop or has a place of his own. I don't know why it's so unbelievable Sonic could have a house to some people, but there you go. The evil genie of the lamp, Eraser Jin, whacks Sonic with a curse. When the flame on his chest goes out, he dies. And the only way to save himself is to get the 7 world rings with the help of a girl genie called Shara. Honestly, a pretty solid start up into the game. We get the idea of this new world, the stakes are quickly set in place, not too much to complain about. Well, there wouldn't be if this got us straight into the platforming. To understand how this is so frustrating though, I need to explain how game progression works here. Unlike in most Sonic games where it goes through level by level or via a hub world, you have various missions you need to complete in each world, and the missions in Lost Prologue are absolutely brain dead, ranging from run and get rings, to do a jump, to grind on a rail, to homing attack, to homing attack some more, and these are unskippable. I love Lost Prologue aesthetically, but that's pretty much the only comfort here since the missions are so fucking boring. I suppose the tutorials are so heavy-handed because the controls take a while to get used to. It's kind of an auto-runner, which admittedly sounds like it would work for Sonic in concept, but it fumbles the execution hard since he's so goddamn unruly to control, particularly any time you need to go backwards. Even on something like Dolphin, where you can rewire the controls to use buttons instead of motion controls with enough experimentation, it still feels really awkward both ways. I tried both motion controls and button controls, and they both just felt really bad in different ways. Another core mechanic to Secret Rings is an RPG-like style leveling system, for some reason. The higher the level, the more little bonuses and skills you can equip before starting missions. This seems pretty innocuous, and early game, it is, but this is something I'll be talking about later in the video. Sand Ocean, the first real world, does give us a much better impression of the game, however, although compared to the prologue, that isn't hard. Going through the get to the goal challenges really aren't that bad, but the amount of silly little challenges like get rings, beat enemies, break jars, don't break jars, etc. start to feel like insulting padding really quick. Oh, and the game is more than happy to tell you when you have a new mission unlocked, so get used to this jingle. A lot. Oh, and this one too. I feel like if the game just mixed up the level design a little bit more and just kept the main missions to getting to the goal ring, I feel like reusing levels would be a lot more inoffensive. Across the game, you come across various characters from the story replaced with Sonic characters, Tails being Alibaba, Eggman being the king, that sort of thing, and it's kinda cute, I don't mind it personally. The first boss of the game is a giant scorpion, and to be honest, I had absolutely no memory of bosses even existing in this game, let alone this guy. Oh, and also before we go on, I've just noticed that I've been saying Sand Ocean in recordings, although the level's called Sand Oasis. Uh, I don't know why, I think it's because I have Part 6, Stone Ocean on the brain, and my JoJo head has just kind of gotten in the script. It made me put Sand Ocean because it sounds like Stone Ocean. But Sand Oasis, which is the actual name of the level, left me with some mixed feelings as the first proper world of the game, but I felt more positive about it than negative. Dinosaur Jungle, on the other hand, left me feeling the opposite way. Now, listen, who doesn't like a good dinosaur? Let's get that out the way. But compared to the rest of the worlds, this one seems really out of place. Again, getting to the goal ring I don't mind, but the rest of the missions were far more tedious than the ones previous. On another note, to my knowledge, this is the first Sonic game where all levels have vocal themes. Some people may find the soundtrack grating here since the vocals are brief and do loop, but it honestly just depends on the song for me. I love Sand Oasis' theme, for example, but I'm really not a fan of Dino Jungle.
Is this a castle?
In the next world, Sonic gains two permanent upgrades to his moveset, Speed Break and Time Break, and I love that the first use of it is him fucking with a Razor Jin and just skipping the boss monster he summons for later. Now that I'm onto these upgrades, I want to expand on the skill equips I mentioned earlier. These can range from little things like from having extra rings to a starting boost, to giving you better controls. This is beyond fucked. Like, having Speed Break and Time Break moves you get that give you either a huge speed boost or slow down time respectively as abilities that you get later are absolutely fine to me. Hell, even having more rings or attracting the pearls easier, that's not an issue. But having better turning, more control in the air, and moving at a decent speed should not be upgrades. They should just be standard controls of the fucking game, obviously. Oh, we're on Levitated Ruin now, also. I really wanted to like this stage, but the wind constantly pushing you back at random times is too annoying for me to be hugely positive about it.
Let's go, Shara.
Another world ring got, thank goodness. The next world is Pirate Storm, and I actually enjoyed this one quite a bit. It's probably my favourite world since Sand Oasis, to be honest. But for me though, another massive issue with the mission-based structure really began to become more prominent here. Mainly that it's completely up in the air which missions you need to beat for game progression. Without looking it up, there's absolutely nothing in the game that tells you which are required other than the obvious get to the goal, beat the boss, that sort of thing. But like I said at the start, I'm trying to be as fair as I can to this game, and I'm giving every mission I unlock my best shot of finishing them, which I do manage for the vast majority of them. But I was starting to think, why am I enjoying Pirate Storm so much? Is it because I'm improving at playing this game and clicking with the game's systems? Absolutely fucking not. It's completely down just to memorizing patterns and dumb luck. I can say firmly that I have never played a video game where I'm not confident that I know how the controls work all the way through, but here we are. The boss fight here, Captain Behemoth, was one that I actually really enjoyed as well. You need to close in on him, humming attack his horns and shake till they break apart. It's simple, but effective, and trying to find an opening between his attack patterns was a lot of fun, surprisingly.
That did the trick.
We've circled back to Evil Foundry, the world we quickly blasted through before. I wasn't really into it then, but ironically I think I've misjudged it, even if it does have evil in the name. Most of the missions were significantly better than the first Get to the Goal one. It just feels like a lot of the slight redesigns they've made to the missions just worked for Evil Foundry a lot better for some reason, and it helps that the theme slaps too. And the boss, Ifrit, is okay at best. Hitting its hand can be really finicky, but it's not too bad overall. After finally clapping the monster, we move on to the next level, Skeleton Dome,
Snow?
of which I had absolutely no memory of it at all, but I love the visual design. However, I can't say I like the level design itself. It feels like a not as good Evil Foundry to me. I do have to say, I love the world names in this game. It kind of has the vibe that someone at Sega asked their kid just to list things that they find cool. We've got dinosaurs, skeletons, pirates. The themes are kind of mishmashy, and I'm not saying this to be demeaning either. I'm all here for it. It's kind of fucking dope, really. After beating it, we only have one world left, and to kick it off, it's the CGI cutscene that was in all the AMVs in the mid-2000s. Let's go! The visuals in Night Palace are simply stunning, especially for an early Wii game. The gameplay is alright, the bits where you're transported to another dimension being the clear highlight, but the sections where you have to wait and shimmy along those finicky railings that fall under you are really, really frustrating. Speaking of, oh my lord, the fight against Eraser Jin is one of the worst, most rage-inducing bosses I've played in a while. Mainly due to it being a 50-50 if the homing attack you time after he makes a particular movement will land through no fault of the player whatsoever, causing you to either take damage or die, and I fucking hate it. Though, I have been ragging on this game a lot, haven't I? Although I haven't spoken on it much, I think the relationship between Shara and Sonic was very well done. You can tell they're very different people from the get-go, Shara being more cautious and reserved, whereas Sonic is carefree and outgoing, and although they do bicker from time to time, mainly at the beginning, you can really feel them becoming close friends throughout the adventure, and it's all very natural and very nice. After this horrible, horrible fight, the credits roll, but the game's not over quite yet, so I'm gonna press on. Throughout the game, it's been alluded to that Shara and the Eraser Jin have some sort of history, and that comes to a head when she ends up giving him the 7 world rings we collected, and I don't really hear this being spoken of often when it comes to talking about this game, but the dynamic between the two really gives off the vibe of like a toxic relationship, especially when Shara says she just wants to be back with him and when he's been nothing but a rat bastard the entire game to her. It's really, really dark when you start to think about it. Like, I'm surprised they even like tried touching this subject matter because it's very dark. Like, it kind of leaves you like lost for words that they tackled something this like serious in a Sonic game, and honestly, I think they managed it like pretty well, all things considered.
The 7 hearts that make up the stories. These are the
But with the
7
7 world rings, the Jin transforms into a form with a design that goes pretty hard, but a name I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. He tries to kill Sonic, but Shara ends up taking the hit at the last moment. With the last of Shara's power and her death, and the rage, sadness, and hatred world rings combined, Sonic transforms into a new form, Darkspine Sonic, and I had to look up the name. To be honest, I was just gonna call it Purple Sonic or something. The actual boss fight is okay at best and a bit irritating at worst, but what saves it is the intense shonen anime final battle vibes. You've got the main theme playing, Sonic beating the living shit out of Eraser Jin, like he's literally beating the other world rings out of the Eraser Jin's body, and Jason Griffith is screaming his goddamn soul out. Like, I've heard people say that his voice for this is too similar to his Werehog voice from Sonic Unleashed, but when he's doing like battle cries this visceral, there's no way I can criticize his voice acting here in good faith.
How's this for an introduction then? Speed break! Your tale is finished, Eraser! Next time, try writing a better story!
After winning the fight, Sonic uses the Genie's lamp to bring Shara back to life, save the world of the Arabian Nights, and seal the Eraser Djinn away, ending the game on a super corny but a little bit endearing note about handkerchiefs.
Now, just let yourself cry. As much as you need to. You'll have plenty of handkerchiefs to help you through it.
You'd think the video would be done there. I mean, we've finished the game, but there's a couple extra features I want to go over, starting with the special book, which houses unlockable concept art, extra commentary from developers over scenes and art pieces in the game, and extra music. It also uses the word soliloquy at some point, which really threw me off. Like, what the fuck? I don't know why it threw me off so much. I was just not expecting the word soliloquy to show up in a Sonic game. But by far the most bizarre feature is the party mode. There is just a whole ass Mario Party knockoff inside this game. It even has extra unlockable characters like Shadow and Silver, and yeah, it's no Mario Party granted, but it isn't awful. But personally, I wouldn't recommend breaking this bad boy out at your next house party. I don't think it'll make you any friends, but hey, it's better than Sonic Shuffle probably, so it's got that going for it, I guess. While quite novel for the time, this game has way too many frustrating moments for playing it to be fully enjoyable for me. Whether you play the original, motion controls and all, or play it on Dolphin and map it to all buttons like I did, I can't say it was a good time. Honestly, I prefer Sonic 06 to this. I'm glad I finally got through one of the few Sonic games that I never finished, but that aside, I can't say that Sonic and the Secret Rings is worth your time.